Hey everybody, it is time again to clean out the MidTower Deluxe for fall 2014. It's been a year since I've last cleaned this thing out. Normally I clean this thing out twice a year, but now that it fulfills duties as, pretty much like a server, I can't just easily take it out of service because it runs my Seton Infinity TV tuner card, and that operates two other TV computers in the house, so I can't just easily take it out of service. But anyways, I finally got a chance to do it today. And that's because I gotta replace the TV storage hard drive in this machine. So, I'd say it's time for a clean out. Now let's have a look at this thing. See how dirty it is over that many hours of runtime. This thing never shuts off. Like I mentioned, it runs like a server. 24/7, hours a day, 7 days a week, never shuts off. Now let's go ahead and get this dust out of here. What do you say? Surprisingly, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So, I'm going to take the side panel off, and I'm actually wearing a dust mask today, because I have personally had enough of, the dust, choking on dust as I'm cleaning it out. Here we have a pretty severe air leak, so we need to hurry, otherwise I have to turn the compressor back on. Let's get you a look up close. Like I mentioned, you guys can talk about cable management all you want, but when this system has 5 hard drives, including the solid state, 2 opticals, a floppy drive, card reader, nearly every single add-on card bay is filled. You got a water cooling system, cold cathode lights, all that stuff. This thing has a lot of hardware in it, and it's very heavy. But anyways, let's go ahead and clean it out, shall we? Yes, I probably sound funny with this dust mask on. Anyways, here we go. This ain't helping. This is not helping me. Take it off. Alrighty. Use up the entire amount of charge on the air compressor. As you can see, that dust mask was of little of no use to me. It did not stop dust from getting in, getting around, so had to use the short method instead. But anyways, the system is now nice and clean. It's not often you get to see this thing outside of my bedroom, so I figured we'd take this time to go and get a good look at it. And for those who don't know exactly what kind of hardware is in this thing, I guess I can do a run through of that right now. I guess we'll start out with the motherboard. It's ASRock 890FX Deluxe 4 motherboard with an AMD FX 8 core 8120, overclocked to 4.2 GHz. As you can see, it's water cooled. Video card is a Radeon HD 6750. I think it's got a gig of RAM. Not exactly sure. Let's see, below that is an extra gigabit LAN controller. That's where my crossover cable attaches, so when I'm working on computers, I just do a direct connection. And below that is a Seaton Infinity TV 4. This currently replaces 3 set-top boxes in the house, so about $13 per set-top box is what Time Warner Cable would charge, for the box itself and the guide. So yeah, good amount of money you're saving a month just by using this and having Windows Media Center. And actually, you're saving more when you're eliminating DVR fees, which is free in Windows Media Center. Below that is a fax modem. Yes, I still fax, and I actually fax over Magic Jack Plus. Below that is yet another tuner capture card. I use this for capturing composite analog video from a VCR. The water block on the CPU is a Heatkiller 3.0 LC. It's got copper base, copper fins. Keeps that Bulldozer CPU nice and cool. And of course, as you can see, the motherboard itself has this little fan over the VRMs. It's got a heat pipe run from the VRMs to the north bridge. And the south bridge has its own heatsink. Power supply is a Thermaltake Smart M750W modular unit. Had this power supply for a little over a year now. Year and a half, actually. Looking at the front, you can see we have a DVD-ROM drive and a DVD burner. No, I don't have a Blu-ray drive. Haven't had the need for one just yet. Using eMachines style bezels on these two. The top drive is actually still from an eMachines. The bottom one is actually from an HP. These are actually ID drives. they're quite old, but they still work just fine. As you can see, I got a thermometer right here. Measures water temperature and hard disk temperature. The water temperature sensor is normally supposed to be right there, but it's come loose, and I'm having issues with that thermistor. It's not the correct one, so it reads very high on the thermometer. Those USB ports are not being used right now because the motherboard doesn't have enough USB 2 headers. Might want to see if I can modify this to accept a USB 3.0 header, because the motherboard has a hookup right there for one. Actually got a header, just gotta hook it up. Anyway, he's still got the old floppy disk drive in here, which I still use once in a while. The reason why I keep it in there is for the rare times I need to use it for like flashing viruses on older systems, or in the cases I have pictures on floppy disk, because about a decade or so ago, our old digital cameras from like the late 90s and early 2000s used floppy disk, and I'm always finding floppy disks with pictures still on them. And it's nice to have discs built in rather than having to use an external. Besides, the case does not have a removable. This does not come out, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd probably switch to an external. Here's a card reader. You guys know what that does. And of course, there's this this Oxide Ecstatic 2 case. I've had this case for 7 years now. Got it in May 2007. Here it is, October 2014. May next year, this case will be 8 years old. And as this system has gone through, I think 5 or 6 full hardware upgrades, or at least in regards to the motherboard. and stuff like that. Anyways, let's talk about storage here. This drive here is a Seagate 2000 gigabyte 2 terabyte drive. It is my backup drive for my RAID stripe. These two drives here are my RAID stripe array. Two 1 terabyte drives. Both of these are certified repaired drives from Seagate because both the originals failed a year or so after I got them. These used to house my OS, but they no longer do that. One on the bottom is a Western Digital Green Power 1 terabyte. I got to replace that drive because it's got smart failure warnings. Yeah, it's had this drive for 4 years, all improvements constantly. Now it's beginning to fail. It'd be the first Western Digital drive I've had to fail ever in any of my own systems, with the exception of the 160 gig drive that was put into my neighbor's computer. So 4 years of constant on use, I say that's good for a Western Digital. The Seagates couldn't handle that half the time. Now speaking of, where's my OS at? It's now on this drive, this Seagate Enterprise SATA solid state drive. So anyways, that's kind of a run through of the hardware in this system. Now let's go look at the water cooling system. It's kind of a mixture of things. This reservoir and pump are actually from a Thermaltake kit that I got out of a part system back in 2011. And this radiator is actually an old automotive AC evaporator that was never used. I mean, it was sitting in my pawpaw's shed, literally had the plastic cap still on it. So it's perfectly clean inside, does not contaminate my coolant whatsoever. Matter of fact, I'm still running the same coolant in this thing 3 years later. I might need to flush it and change it. I've actually had to top it off a little bit with distilled water because it evaporated just a little bit. The tubing itself is from Lowe's. Just that clear tubing you get at Lowe's for dirt cheap. Works just fine. And again, there's a water block. That's not the original one I had. The previous one was part of that Thermaltake kit. It was a piece of junk when you compare it to this one. Now, if you're curious just how much heat this processor puts out, think of it like this. This thing's overclocked to 4.2 gigahertz. And when it's under max load, it puts out some heat. I mean, it gets up to about 45, 46 degrees Celsius. And you're thinking, hey, that's awful hot for a water cooling system. But when you feel this radiator and the air coming out of this, it feels like a space heater. I mean, this water cooling system is being worked hard to keep that CPU cool under max load. It doesn't get under max load very often because it's such a powerful CPU. It normally sits at idle most of the time. But anyways, on this I used to have an 8-fan setup, push-pull, but every single one of those, well, almost every single one of those 8mm fans failed because they were cheap and had sleeve bearings. And also, I figured this would be better just to have just 4 of the 92s back here working. Makes this system a lot quieter, and it stays just as cool. So anyways, here's a much cleaner MidTower Deluxe. Now it's got to replace that hard drive. Got a brand new hard drive to go right here. A Hitachi 2 terabyte I got off eBay for like $60-something. Ordered a white label drive, received a Hitachi with a 3-year warranty. Not bad. So anyways, just got to replace that drive and oil that fan and that fan. So anyways, any questions or comments? Feel free to ask them. Thanks for watching.